but don't quote me on that. Might want to go back and look because I could be wrong. Okay, so let's quickly go through this, and this time, so as to not confuse me, because Quacker doesn't get confused by this. I confuse myself, and then it's just a mess. So we're just going to start from the top of the bracket in the second round. So Oregon was the visiting team in the Orange Bowl against Texas Tech in Miami Gardens. Did you get to watch this game?
Yeah.
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 So,
was,
wait, hold on. What am I doing? Forgive me, guys. Quacker, news and notes.
Okay.
My
So
bad.
Marcus Free, it's been a minute since we've been on the
Yeah,
air,
I'm out
guys.
of practice,
We both
so.
have been super busy. Yeah. Marcus Freeman. There was some odds that he would be leaving Notre Dame for the NFL. Well, he's staying put. There's interest from several teams, but he's decided he wants to stay in the college ranks. So good for him. It's I feel like definitely the peak of the profession would be the NFL, but I feel like college, you're still at that point where you can make a bigger impact on people's lives than you can in the NFL, and it seems like he's prioritizing that over money and stuff like that. So good for him. Um, the FBS coaches voted in favor of a 9-game redshirt rule.
Oh my gosh.
This I was reading up on it because it came across my ESPN alerts thing today, and I was like, 9 games. Why are they doing this? And part of it was because of the way players are opting out. After a quarter of the season, this will give them more incentive to stay for the entire season. A lot of the coaches wanted to go just to a straight up just 5 years. You play for 5 seasons type thing, and they couldn't get that passed. But I mean, this is pretty much it here. So
Yeah, I
but
wish
this
they
doesn't
just
mean
would
it'll
have
go
done
into
the
a
5-game season though, or a 5-year deal, because
yeah
we've talked about it before. Unless you do summer classes, which these college football players are not, if you actually want a degree, so like let's say a Stanford player wants to get a degree,
mm-hmm.
it and you're playing football, it's gonna take 5 years to finish because you're not taking more than 12 hours a semester. I guarantee it. So I'm all for 5 years, but 9-game redshirt, they keep. All right, I'm sorry to derail it, and I told Quacker beforehand that I had to be quick, but I have to speak about this. They keep making decisions in the wrong direction. All right, like when they opened up the transfer portal to where you could transfer at any point during the year, you just couldn't play till the next year. When what they really needed to do was rein it back in. I was fine with them getting rid of the sit out 1 year, but the 3, 4, 5 transfers and the 6, 7, 8 years of eligibility. Listen, I am all for the possibility of 7 years of eligibility. Here's the circumstances, though. All right, you move to 5 years, you take a red shirt, and you take a medical red shirt. That gives you 7 years. All right.
Yeah.
So, but that's the only circumstance in which I'm comfortable with that. But so I feel like they keep going, like the decisions they make are in the right category, but exactly the opposite of the decision they need to be making.
Yeah.
It needs to be a 1 or 2-game red shirt rule, and just add another year. Because if it's 1 or 2 years, like it used to be what you could play in 1 game, and then it was 4 for the last forever. Or maybe you could play in 2. But the thing is, if you make it 1 or 2, these players don't get the opportunity to say, "Oh, we've lost 4 games. I'm done."
Yeah.
Doesn't do them any good.
Yeah. Now the coaches vote on this. It doesn't mean that it goes into effect because the NCAA Division I committee has to approve it to change the rule.
Yeah, but the world we're living in, they have no teeth right now, so they're going to vote it in because they know that some state will just, their legislature will just make a ruling on it. So,
yeah, and you talk about the transfers and stuff. I saw tonight where T.J. Finley, who started back in 2020, is now transferring to his seventh school. So he'll be on his seventh team, um, in his career. So, um, that's beyond abuse of the rules there, and
What
it's
are we
not a good look for
doing?
the player. Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's not a
certainly
good
it's
look
not a
for the
good look for the
player.
player, but I mean, like, look, we're Saints fans. We talk about this a lot. I really like what I saw from Tyler Shuck. I don't think he's like the second coming, but I think he's good. It's weird to me that he is a rookie and was in the same high school recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence. That's weird.
Yeah, yeah, because Lawrence
So
is what his third or fourth season in
something
the
like
league.
that. Yeah. I don't know
Fifth,
exactly.
he came out. He came out.
I think he came out not 18 or 19, something like that, or maybe 20, somewhere right in that
What
neighborhood.
he played in the he played for Clemson when they lost to LSU in the national championship season. So that would have been the 19 season 20 draft. And I think he stayed one more year to that. So
Maybe I got
yeah,
it
he's
wrong.
probably in his.
Maybe it's Tyler Shuck was in college when Trevor Lawrence was in college. I'm just gonna look it up. Keep go ahead and finish the news out real quick.
Okay, and of course we can't have one playoff season without the obligatory expansion talk. There's camps talking about expanding to 16 teams and camps talking about 2014 formats. I'm more in favor of contraction than I am expansion. Um, take it down to 8 teams, and but that's just me. They're not going to do that. Well, I know it's not just me. I've heard Josh Pate and quite a few others talk about this as well, but they're not going to contract. They're just going to keep expanding, and it's going to get to the where we have 64 at some point. So
Yeah, it'll never get that far just because of the wear and tear on the student athletes' bodies. However, this is one of those circumstances because typically when it comes to college football rules, you and I are normally in lockstep. This is one of those rare circumstances where we do not agree. I ultimately think that 16 is the exactly perfect number. Now, first, as soon as they announced, I mean, you may or may not remember this, but as soon as they announced 12, they immediately, and when I say immediately, I mean like within the announcement, we're already talking about a 16-team expansion. So like that's been in, that's been in the works for a while. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But here's why I think 16 is perfect. You have open seating. Okay, here's the format that I think works perfect. Everybody gets what they want to get. Okay, there are 10 conferences in college football. Notre Dame's got to get in a conference. Every conference champion is automatically in. They're not automatically seeded somewhere specific or anything, but they're automatically in, just like the NCAA tournament. And then there are 6 at-large bids. If you're good enough to be in the playoff and you're in a power conference, you're going to get an at-large bid. Every conference gets representation. You split the bracket in 2 and you seed them accordingly, and you put you do 1 against 16, 2 against 15, so on and so forth, or however you want to do it. If you want to split off 1 and 2 and do 1 versus 9, 2 versus 8, or it doesn't matter. There is no perfect playoff. This is the closest to perfect we're going to get because I do believe I understand that Tulane and JMU got embarrassed because they didn't have the horses. No, you're not going to get a disagreement from me. So did Cincinnati when they were in it. I'm not saying that's not the case. But Quacker, you and I remember when Boise State, when bowl games meant something. When Boise State played in a BCS bowl game and beat Oklahoma. And that game mattered because those players cared. So a group of 6 team can, and they do beat good Power 4 teams. Doesn't happen often, but it happens, all right? Both of these coaches were on the way out. Ole Miss clearly had something to prove. Matter of fact, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but they are a bad no call away from having a chance to win that game. So 8 out of 10 times, group of 6 teams probably going to get blown out. Put them in anyway, because there are going to be Cinderella stories. And let me tell you something, because Quacker and I remember when App State, who was at the time 1AA, beat top 5 Michigan on the first weekend of the year. We remember Boise State beating Oklahoma. We remember, heck, man, there have been top 10 teams halfway through the season lose to 1AA schools. All right. So I'm just saying, put every conference champion in and put 6 at-larges. And it's simple how you do it. Your 6 at-larges are you go through conference standings and you take the highest the highest value. You can use the term resume if you want. The highest value. So if there's 2 Big Ten teams that have a higher value based on whatever strength of record or whatever, then the next best SEC team, then you got Big Ten team number 2, who's not the conference champion. They're the first at large. Big Ten team number 3 is the second at large. SEC teams third, whatever. But I don't understand. If you want to expand to 16, do it. But this is I'm going to stop because I'm just saying the same thing. But it seems like it's so simple.
Yeah, but they complicate things, and I've heard Josh Pate talk about doing a group of 6 playoff and having the basically having the Power 4 conferences pay for it, basically. Having with a separate network, CBS carries the group of 6 playoff instead of ESPN. They get the money for that because people will watch that, maybe not to the level that they would the group of 4, but people are still going to watch it, and there's still going to be an appetite for it.
Sure, of course there would be, but the problem is that devalues all of those programs. But
it does.
But here's the thing: I don't know about the whole Power 4 paying for it, but we are heading that direction. But it's going to be a full split because at some point, and I don't know if it's next year or 20 years from now, but sometime sooner rather than later, we're going to have the Power 4 do another split. So right now, Division I is split in football, split into 2. You have 1AA, which, by the way, I found out they are still officially called 1AA in parentheticals FCS, which I didn't know. But that's FCS, so that's your who's that team that's always good? Is it South Dakota or Montana or
South Dakota State and North Dakota State? Yeah.
Those type teams. All the SBCUs, the traditionally black colleges and universities.
HBCUs, yeah.
HBCU. Why did I say that? Historically black. I said SBCU, and then I was like, wait, whatever. That.
Yeah.
Those are all 1AA. So right now there's 2 levels. We're about to have a 3rd level. We're about to have they're going to take all the group of 6 teams and put them in a mid tier, and then they're going to take the whatever the current picture of the Power 4 is, and they're going to make that its own tier. Now look, I'd be perfectly happy with that if they introduce promotion and relegation. And there are so many people clamoring for it. I'm a huge soccer fan. I've been clamoring for it forever. I don't think it'll ever happen, but boy, would it make the sport more exciting. Because let me tell you something, those games that don't mean anything when you're bottom of the barrel, you're Alabama and you don't have Nick Saban, and you all of a sudden have won 3 games, and if you don't win the next game, you finish last in your conference and you're moving down. Oh, those games matter. They're money games. They're big-time games. It's so exciting. And now, realistically, and this happens in European soccer too, there is always an elite tier of teams that either have never been relegated or very rarely get relegated. So the chances of an Alabama or whatever happening like that, it's not that likely. But an Auburn or a Florida or a Tennessee or a South Carolina, That's very likely. Well, not very likely, but
Right.
it's very possible. So, yeah, that's what I'm cool if they do the split if they introduce promotion or relegation, because then you're at least giving the power or the group of 6 schools the opportunity to get in the fight.
Yeah. Would you pair conferences? So like Sun Belt, Southeastern Conference, pair them. So
I'd be okay
Vandy.
with that, or I would be okay with just reorganizing it into divisions similar to the NFL. But so for instance, in European soccer, so like the Premier League, which is the league I watch the most, there are 20 teams, okay, and the bottom 3 teams every year. So the top 3 teams and sometimes the top 4. Well, actually, it is the top 4 now. The top 4 teams in the Premier League move on to the or not move on, but they qualify for the next year's Champions League, which is just an extra competition, but it's the most prestigious competition in the world. But then domestic, which is what we're talking about, which would be their domestic league, which is would be the equivalent to our football season or the NFL league games. It'd be like if the Saints played in the NFL and then every other week they played like in an extra competition, and sometimes they're still playing NFL teams, but it's not an NFL game. It's a USA Football Cup game, so that kind of thing. So
Yeah, like the NBA is doing with the NBA Cup stuff.
no,
It
no,
still counts, but
not like that. Because no. So it's a totally separate league. It's a totally you're not playing. You wouldn't play with. You would play with Football Association approved refs, but they wouldn't even be like NFL refs, right? They would be. It's a totally separate competition. Win or loss does not affect your NFL season, but it's happening at the same time as the NFL season. Obviously, you can't do that in football because of the wear and tear on your body. But they do that in soccer, right? So
Right.
the top 4 go into the champions. The next couple go into the Europa, and then there's one more cup that no one cares about. And then the bottom 3 get relegated to the English League Championship. And then the top 2 teams from the English League Championship, and there's 24 teams in that league. And you're playing everybody home and away. So they're playing 46 league games on top of whatever cup competitions they're in the championship. So they the top 2 automatically get promoted. And then 3, 4, 5, and 6 go into a 14 playoff for the 3rd spot. And that championship game is considered the championship game to get the 3rd promotion spot in the English League Championship is considered the most valuable game, money-wise, in the sport because of what it does for your brand if you move up. So, obviously, there are some tweaks, right? You can't do certain things. You can't have a playoff to get into that. I guess you could, but I feel like that would have to serve as your championship as well, but because they don't do playoffs in soccer. So yeah, I think it's exciting and I love it, but that's the only way I'd be happy with the split. But with the split's coming whether we want it or not. But there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. So
yeah. And so with their track record, they'll pick the wrong route.
yeah. So and hey, so I was right. Shuck and Lawrence came into college the same year. So Lawrence's first season was 2018 at Clemson. Tyler Shuck's first season at Oregon was also 2018. And
yeah, I think Shuck had like a red shirt, like an injury season where he was hurt, like a torn ACL or something like that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah,
he's been a pro football quarterback since the 2021 season.
I know he's been there for a while.
So this is his 5th year, and there's a rookie in the league who was recruited out of high school the same year he was. So, all right. So look, I made our intro way too long because I have 74 different things going on. That's my fault. That I did that. Let's move on to these games. So you said we left off before I realized that I forgot. You did watch the Oregon Texas Tech game. Listen,
Yeah.
if you didn't watch this game, this was not a blowout. This was a very competitive game. Texas Tech was inside the 20, inside the 10 multiple times. It was a weird game. It was a competitive game. Oregon just kind of slowly would tack on a field goal. 15 minutes later, tack on a field goal. It was the weirdest 3-touchdown win I've ever seen in my life, because I walked away from that thinking Texas Tech played really good. They didn't capitalize on any of their scoring opportunities. But other than that, I mean, they played a solid game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe they had a turnover or two that led to some Oregon points. But yeah, I mean, this is like the scoreboard. We say this sometimes. The scoreboard is not indicative of how the game went, and this is one of those. This is definitely that type of game where I really, until the last couple minutes of the game, it was kind of in doubt. I'd say the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game. At that point, it was Oregon had locked it up. But yeah, I mean, it was
in the middle of the fourth quarter, and they were still in striking distance. So and you can see, Texas Tech had spent a lot of money on their defense, their defensive line. I mean, they were really disrupting Oregon's pass game. Really disrupting everything on the Oregon's offensive side of the ball, but Oregon's defense, they came to play this game as well. And they got some breaks that Texas Tech didn't, and so they walked out the Orange Bowl winners and got to take on the winner of the Alabama-Indiana game. Yeah, they sure did. So, all right. So speaking of the Alabama-Indiana game, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to say what I've said for the last year and a half. Everybody calm down. Kalen DeBoer is not a terrible coach. Indiana is, like, freakishly good. This Indiana team, and you can say whatever you want. You can argue. You can come in the comments and you can say I'm crazy or blah, 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 trying to be clickbait or whatever. This is going to be one of the greatest college football teams of all time. They are. And it's not because I want the story to be greater. It's because if you watch them, they are unstoppable. Period.
They're like the Terminator. They just keep coming. It's just.
And you know what? Terminator's a great example because they are so precise. They are so methodical. They are so, they're like machines. And Kirk Cignetti looks like he's never been happy a day in his life, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It's funny because I saw a headline where he said, "I do smile and I am happy," but I mean, he just and I heard him saying that, or maybe it was them talking about why he, but he was like, "I keep my face neutral because I expect my players to remain." Not get too high, not get too low during the game. So I need to set that example for them as well.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of examples, and I know you agree with me on this because I know how you think about this. If you're a parent, have your child sit down and listen to Fernando Mendoza do an interview. Doesn't matter what the interview is. Doesn't matter what the venue is. What an incredible young man. So humble, complimentary of other people. Obviously, his faith is something that matters, to Chad and I. But on top of that, he's thoughtful. You would never think that when he gets on the field, he is just like. Because look, guys, I didn't even know who he was halfway through the year, and the reason is not because I was sleeping on Indiana. It's because I don't watch a lot of Big Ten football on this podcast. We don't cover it until we get to the postseason, and I just didn't. I knew Indiana was doing good, but I wasn't like keeping track of their players. But man, since I've started like watching, he's so precise. He's so like poised. Like he threw a couple balls. They weren't like the best balls I've ever seen, but they were just beautiful. Like he threw one,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a deep post, and the safety was coming down off the top, and he threw it like it wasn't like a line drive. It was about 25 to 35 yards, something like that. But it had just an ever so slight arc on it, and it just dropped right into the receiver's hands. And that's like, I'm not saying quarterbacks can't do that. Probably most of the NFL quarterbacks and a handful of college quarterbacks can. But that's the kind of football that's fun to watch. I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
just the way he did it, So that's a role model. I have no connection to Indiana. Well, I guess we have family there, but I've met him once when I was like 12. So I have no connection to the Hoosiers at all. But Mendoza's a guy you can root for. So
Yeah. Yeah. And his team, they're just like we said, they're just machines. I mean, they dismantled this Alabama team like it was nothing, and I mean, it was over at halftime. You could go ahead and start sorting out the roses for the Hoosiers because that was it. I mean, their defense is solid. It's a grown man team. Like their average age is like 23. And so like Kirk, he works the portal hard, and he goes after these grown men basically. So
yep.
it's a difference. I mean, and you can see what the way they were hitting Alabama players. I mean, they took Simpson out of the game in the fourth quarter because he was so beat up. I mean, they were losing at that point, but it was,
Well,
the
he got
board's
hurt,
like, look,
though.
that's what he was so beat up that he was
Yeah.
just like, it's not worth putting you back
Yeah,
in
because
at this
they
point.
took
So
his pads off. So I mean that if they
yeah,
just took him out of the game, they wouldn't have taken his pads off. Yeah, no, it was domination. But I'll say it again. And I just realized my mic's probably been super low this whole time, so I apologize to everyone. I'll say it again. Like, this is no like. If you're an Alabama fan, don't get down on this, right? This was a good Alabama team. You do need to get used to the reality that you don't live in the Nick Saban era anymore. So you're not going to see obviously every 2 years or every year a fringe playoff team at least, and every 2 or 3 years a completely dominant team. That's just not going to happen anymore because you don't have Nick Saban. That doesn't mean you don't have a great program. This was a good team. Alabama and Ty Simpson had some great moments. They just ran into the wrong team. That's my final thought on that. I'm going to be honest with you. The Ole Miss Georgia game, the whole thing's a blur. I don't remember. I watched every play. I don't remember a single second because I was so happy. So I don't even remember how Ole Miss won. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched every second of that game, and I couldn't tell you anything about it because all I was thinking was, please win this game. So if you remember something, please share it.
well, I mean, it was a back and forth game. I remember that, and Ole Miss kind of won it there at the very end. But it was it was one of those games. I mean, I didn't care who won. I just was watching, just I mean, because it was a ball game to watch. But the Ole Miss story, like we all know it. They were playing exceptionally well in this game. And of course we all remember they had the collapse in what was it, October when they went to Athens. So it was kind of, was it going to happen again? But they came out and they went toe to toe with them and won there at the end. Trinidad Chambliss, he played his butt off in that game. He took some hard hits in that game and kept getting up as well. I mean, it was one of those. It was definitely a classic. Like they'll show this one on the ESPN Classics, for years to come because it was a really good game.
Yeah, it was, and that was a really great I mean, just all around. Listen, like obviously, I make no secret about the fact that I'm not the biggest Georgia fan, but it's mainly because their players can't stay out of trouble. Their fans bark, and Kirby Smart's a baby. But other than that, they're fine. But here's what I love about this round. Obviously, we saw number 10 Miami beat number 2 Ohio State in a good game. Interesting. Did you notice the parallel from the 2002 game? There was another should have been called, not called, or maybe it was called, shouldn't have been called. And if you remember, Ohio State beat Miami to win the national championship and I was happy for that because Miami had won the previous year. I wanted Ohio State to win.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it was the wrong call, but it was a dang close call. It was interesting how this worked out because obviously, Miami tacked on at the end, but I was like, oh, that's a weird parallel. But all right, quickly give me your thoughts on that, and then I want to just say one more thing about the round, then we'll move on.
I was surprised. I figured their defense would keep them in this game, but I didn't think they would slow Ohio State down like they did. But I mean, really, this Miami team, I mean, they've gotten into the playoffs and they have just done what they were supposed to do. Like they're winning in the front, the front, their lines, like they're winning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And I mean, when you can win there, when you can get to the quarterback with 4 rushers or 5 rushers and have the field covered where the quarterback doesn't have to go with the ball, it's been very impressive to watch just how dominant that line is. And it makes sense that they would build from the inside out because Cristobal played offensive line for the Hurricanes back in the 80s and early 90s. He won 2 championships with them as an offensive lineman. So it makes sense as to where he would build his team is from the inside out like that. And you can just tell, like that is where they put their focus, and they have not leaned on Carson, especially in Miami in the first round. They didn't lean on Beck at all. Like I think he had like 100 yards. In this one here, it was another one where they leaned more on the running game and the defense. And I mean, Beck played okay, but it wasn't like he was just out. But he didn't turn the ball over. And when he's not turned the ball over, they've won all their games. Yeah. So he's been doing just enough to get them to the finish line.
Yeah. So all right. So the reason I went on that little explanation about I don't have a problem with Georgia other than those 3 things is there were 3 teams I wanted to lose in this round, and it has nothing to do with me not liking them or hating them because they're good. I wanted to see different teams. Okay. So I was glad Ohio State, Ole Miss, or Georgia, and Alabama all lost. Primarily because it's just nice to see new blood. And, this is a double-edged sword, what I'm about to say. It's good and it's bad. It's really bad for the group of 6 schools who are financially, they're footing the bill for developing players and then losing them to big schools. So that part of it's bad. But one of the things about the current state of NIL and transfer portal is we are starting to see teams that we didn't see all the time. Because, look, I'm an SEC guy, and I do believe the SEC is the generally the best conference in college football. But while I do think that, I think there was a 7-year period where that was unequivocally true, and that was from 2006 to 2012, when the SEC won 7 straight BCS games and had one of those featured 2 SEC teams. Listen, that period of time, the SEC was the dominant force of college football. Since then, the SEC's still been really good, but the thing is, like what people don't realize if you don't watch the SEC is Alabama, because of what Nick Saban was doing. There's this rhetoric or about in the SEC about, oh well, the West carries the conference, blah 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 blah. Well, that's not really true. What happened is all of the teams in the West, all the universities in the West, literally had no other choice but to find a way to forcibly get better, because Nick Saban was so good, right? And during that period, you saw Florida have a year here and there where they were successful. Tennessee have a year. Well, not really Tennessee. South Carolina, when they had Spurrier, had some successful years. Missouri, one of those weird schools, like they're never great, but every once in a while, man, they pop up and they'll bite you. You know, obviously Georgia kind of rose during that period, but I don't think this is new, and I don't think it's bad for college football. And I don't care if the ESPN guys have been talking for a month about, well, it's just the SEC dominance over, blah, blah, blah. What do they need to do? Who cares? This is great for college football. I'm an SEC fan, and I am super pumped that the national championship is Indiana versus Miami. Full disclosure, I grew up in Florida. Don't want Miami to win for that reason. Plus, who doesn't want Indiana to win anyway?
Right.
But how cool is this that we're seeing, like, a lot, like, it's not so much parity as it is, like, teams have the ability to do something they haven't done in a long time. The unfortunate part is it's still hurting other teams, but we'll figure that out. All right, so quickly, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Oregon looked really good against Texas Tech, like we talked about. Texas Tech and Oregon were both good in that game. Oregon was just better. I mean, this like, I literally turned the game off at halftime. Now, the reason that's a big deal is because, or it's not a big deal, but my approach is we're down to the point now to where there are only so many games left in the season. And so I'm not going to turn any of the games off because I want to watch them. Plus, I am not an Oregon fan, and that I don't have any Oregon gear. I will never advertise myself as an Oregon fan, but I like to see them win. So the combination of that plus them being absolutely boat raced by this team that's just, like we talked about, dominant, nothing to say. I mean, I don't have anything to say about this game. Indiana just looked like they just kept rolling, and that was that.
Yeah, I mean, from the first play of the game on, it was, Indiana picked 6 on the first play, and Oregon came back and tied it up, and I thought maybe, okay, they've settled down, they're going to get right here, we're going to have a good game, and was
Indiana
false
just scored
hope.
Touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
Was it like 35-3 or something at halftime, or 10, or I don't know.
35 set. So it was something stupid. It was like, all right, well, this is over. Oregon's not getting back in this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just, it was absolute just dominance. I mean, Indiana, the 2 closest games they've had has been against the Sun Belt team at the beginning of the season when they played Old Dominion. And then when they played, they played Penn State close. I forgot about that. But the Ohio State played them, in the championship game. It was a really close game there.
Yeah. And
but
by the way,
outside of that, they have just destroyed everybody.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, it's just been a coronation run.
Yeah. Well, and every national championship team, and I'm including 0-1 Miami when they played Boston College and almost lost the game if Ed Reed didn't have that strip 99-yard touchdown return. 95 Nebraska. 96 Florida had a scare against Vanderbilt. Every single good team has a game or two that and oftentimes it's against a team they really should be beating badly. So that didn't do anything for me. But real quick stat on this. So Indiana has played the number 9 and the number 5 team so far in the playoff. They've outscored their opponents a combined 69-25. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, so this for the Fiesta Bowl, instead of breaking down the whole game, let's focus on the controversy in this game, which was the call or the no call at the end. Now, I personally believe it was pass interference. I was watching the game on mute because my son and I were also in the middle of doing something. So I heard somebody say that the commentators thought it was a big deal that they didn't call it. I don't know. But I've also heard some people say that they land on the other side of the fence. So where do you land on this?
I land on the it's not a big deal. Cause if it had been flipped, Ole Miss would have been happy it wasn't called either. I mean, they called it mutual combat. I mean, both of them were kind of pulling each other. Um, it's just it's what happens. And I've only seen a pass interference called on a Hail Mary once, and it's when Jimmy Graham just absolutely just shoved the defender to the ground. And so it's an offensive pass interference. Outside of that, I've never seen anything called on a Hail Mary. And it's just one of those plays where
it was a 30-yard. They were on like the 30-yard line.
Well, I mean, it was still a Hail Mary. I mean, it was the last play of the game. But
a Hail Mary is like you're far enough away that you just have to throw up a prayer. Like 30-yard line is like you could score on any given play. You know what I mean? They were in prevent. They were guarding the goal line, but the offense still ran up. Like they ran routes. They didn't just everybody sprinted the end zone and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean they were calling it a Hail Mary on the broadcast, and the officiating was calling it a Hail Mary. And I mean even after the game, Pete Golden was like he wasn't blaming it on that or anything. He was like I mean it would have been nice to have it, but I mean we would have not wanted it called on us if we'd been on the defense side of the ball. So
that's the right thing for him to say. So I'm watching it again, and the Ole Miss receiver the whole time is looking at the ball, and he's hand checking the DB, but the DB is not looking at the ball and has both hands on his arms. To me, that's pass interference every time. But here's my issue, and I can't remember where I heard this. Somebody else was talking about this, but this was my thought as soon as it happened. In fact, I almost broke my remote because I went to throw it back on the little table I keep it on, and throw it this far off the table, but I missed, and it fell on the ground because I was so frustrated. And I was but I was frustrated not because I care about Ole Miss, but because I feel like it's typical that in huge moments the refs keep the flags in their pocket.
Yeah.
And it's worse in college than pro. Obviously, as Saints fans, we have the most egregious no call of all time, but I don't think that's typical in the NFL. It is typical in college. Call the game the same way you're going to call it on the first pass play, on the last pass play. And I get it. They don't want to throw a flag and be incorrect on a huge call, but you don't want. What's the difference in not throwing? Why don't you throw it and then go have a conference? And if the two other refs that are watching it disagree, pick the flag up.
Yeah. I mean, they did this in the NFL for a year because of that no call.
Yeah, then they took it away.
Yeah, but they did that just to say, well, see, we were right, and they weren't. They purposely never overturned the call. I think they returned one the whole season, but
but that wasn't an actual rule change. That was a PR thing because they
have an actual the
thing is
have an actual review where an independent somebody who's not on the field calling it, where they review it and say yes or no pass interference. That's. I mean, sometimes it's subjective, but in a situation like that where it's such a big deal, it's better to have a mechanism in place where they can throw the flag and then no pass interference or pass interference. So
this is true of both college and pro, and there are certain penalties I totally get you can't review. I totally get it. You cannot go review forward progress. You just can't, because it has. I mean, there's too much involved in that. And if you don't have the right camera angle, you can't. But we have all of these plays where they are literally zooming in as much as these 4K cameras can zoom in, and then digitally enhancing, with their like 3D technology, trying to see if they see a blade of grass for inbounds or touchdown or whatever. But for some reason, like the powers that be in football at large, not just college football, and in football at large, they're completely against the idea of reviewing penalties. The only penalty they will review is targeting. It's the only one. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, the whole reason that they changed that rule in the NFL was because for those of you who don't remember, I'm just going to briefly discuss this. The Saints had a third down on like the 12-yard line. The Rams were out of timeouts, and it was either at the 2-minute warning or just under it. The point was, if the Saints got a first down, the game was over. The Rams could not stop it. The Saints were in the Super Bowl. Game's over. Like there's not a question. It's not like, oh, well, then this had to happen. Or the game was literally over, and they didn't call it. So what I'm saying is I think the NFL and the Rules Committee realized, okay, this is really bad. We have to respond to this. And I think their response was, let's implement it for a year and be so strict with our calls and encourage our officials not to overturn it unless there's something unbelievably egregious, so that we can pull it back. Because it's a good rule to have. Review it.
Yeah.
You can't really review holding the same way you can't review forward progress, because like it has so much to do with at what point in the play and in the movement of the body are you moving. But there are a lot of penalties you can, right? And pass interference is certainly one of them. So
there is one pass interference can be reviewed. Do you know which one it is?
Nope.
Tip ball. You can
well, if
because if the ball was tipped,
it can't be pass interference.
Yeah. So that's the only time they can review a pass interference call.
Well, but they're not reviewing a pass interference call. They can retroactively
but they pick the flag.
Yeah, they can retroactively
they pick the flag up.
Yeah, or retroactively apply it. So like, if they say there's no pass interference because the ball was tipped, and then replay buzzes down and says, hey, the ball wasn't tipped, they can retroactively put the flag down. Kind of like, you know what it's similar to? It's similar to, like, it's not a review, right? It's like intentional grounding, where sometimes the white hat will throw it immediately, but almost every time they talk about it, then they look at the coaches, then they talk about it again, and then the camera's on the white hat, and we can all see this image, and the guy just reaches down on his hip, just drops the flag down, and then says intentional grounding. Because there's a lot to that rule. Like, where is the pocket at the moment? Because the pocket is like where the tackles are. I think you have to be like, one part of your body has to be outside of the body of one of the tackles or something like that, and the pocket and it's got to get past the line of scrimmage, or you've got to be able to have someone in the area. And so that's a complex play, but they take their time with it. So I didn't have a dog in the fight. I'm not mad, but man, what a cool story for Pete Golding. Like, taking over this team. The team was hyped to have him as their new coach. Like, I didn't see the video, but I heard there was a video when they announced it to the team, and the team just went nuts, man. And then he took him to the brink of the national championship game. I'm not blaming Miami. I just want the refs to be consistent. That's all. Because look, if the pass interference happens, it doesn't mean Ole Miss scores, right? So it's not like, because they needed a touchdown. So I'm not saying the game, they robbed them of the game, but I do believe that they robbed them of an additional opportunity that they had earned. So
their last two games were both a 5-point margin of final score.
I thought it was 4. My bad. Okay, so
no, that is 4. Yeah.
Sorry, I was wrong with that. I was on the page. I was on a different page, so I wasn't even looking. All right, so National championship game. I'm not going to give any analysis on this. I think Miami's good. I think they've kind of hit their stride and they've found their. I guess I'll give a brief analysis. They found their balance, and we've talked about this on text. It's not expect Carson Beck to do everything, and it's not expect him to do nothing. Give him like a medium to low medium load, and then rely on your run and your defense. And it's really worked for them because their defense has been incredible. They're not going to win this game. Indiana is really, really, really good. Like, I'm telling you, this is going to be a top 5, top 10 best college football team of all time. There's no question in my mind. Only way they're not is if they lose this game. And I literally, like, I feel like the Saints have a better chance of losing this game than Indiana does. Like, and obviously a pro team's not losing to a college team, but I just don't see a world where this happens.
Yeah, the Jets would, but it's I think this game is going to be won and lost in the trenches. Both these teams have very good lines, like their offensive defensive lines are really good. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen an offensive line win MVP of a game. Right, because the offensive line, the center was the one who received the award, but it was to him and the whole line when they won the Rose Bowl. They were the MVP, which was incredible. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever seen that in my life. I mean, they just opened up gaping holes.
Yeah.
When they have a run play and they keep Fernando clean. Like, the only time his jersey gets dirty is when he takes off on the scramble, like, or a design run.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to scramble much because they do such a good job blocking. I think this will probably be one of the best lines, defensive lines that Indiana will go up against the whole year. I don't know that this stays close for the whole game, but I think it's going to be a closer game than the last two they played. I think it's closer, longer than the Rose Bowl or the Peach Bowl.
I see why I see your logic there. I think it's going to be about like the Oregon game, and here's why. I agree with you that both teams. Both sides of the ball, their lines are incredible. But instead of me concluding like you that the game's going to be won and lost there, I think that's actually going to be a wash because I think they're all 4 line units that we're going to see, they're all good. They're all really good. And I feel like it's just I feel like each of the 4 units will win a play here, lose a play here, win a play here because it's just going to be really competitive. I think where the separation is, there's 2 things. It is this Indiana team seems like they're, like we've talked about, like they're an emotionless robot. So that's the one thing. Like you can't phase them, and they don't get shook by anything. So there's that. But the skill players, and I know that sounds weird. I think Miami will be prepared. And look, Cristobal has proven me wrong. I thought he was one of the best coaches in the country from January to August. Seriously, before the season, I thought he was an incredible coach until it got to Saturdays. And then he was star. I didn't think he was bad, but I just thought, that was the kind of coach he is. But he's proven me wrong because Miami's wheels almost fell off, and he's turned it around to the point that I legitimately feel like they right now are the second best team in the country. And they've played like it, and they've earned it. I do agree with you that it's going to be close for like some amount of time. Like I don't think it's going to be like first play of the game, Indiana scores, and then they never look back. I do think that there will be some give and take. But I feel like it's going to wind up similar to the Oregon game because I think Oregon's a much more talented and better coach team. I think the difference is Miami has found a winning recipe, and they're on fire. to me, like the spread in this game, was it 8.5? Sorry, I'm getting old. I can't see it. Yeah, so it's 8.5
Yeah,
for
8.5.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I if you don't smash the over, and if you're a bettor and you don't smash the over in that, just stop watching sports. Like, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think Indiana wins by 10 plus, but I do think it's close for maybe a half. I
I can see
just
that. I can see the first half being tight.
yeah. But I feel like the machine that is the Hoosiers is just gonna wear the Hurricanes defense down, and
Yeah.
by the second half,
The Hoosier
by the
bots.
end of the second half, yeah. Um, but by the end of the second half, they're just gonna be exhausted and not able to stop that two-hitter running game that they have. I mean, they just
And if they can,
you
the
know
DBs aren't going to be able to keep up with the receivers because Mendoza's surgical. So,
yeah.
that's kind of the issue.
You know
It's like if you figure out how to stop one, the problem is then you have to figure out a way to deal with the other. You know,
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter, and I thought it was more than one scout, but apparently it's one pro scout that said he would only give Mendoza a fourth round grade because like he couldn't read defenses and all this other stuff. And when I was watching him play the other night, I was like, I don't know what this guy's looking at because he's picking this Oregon defense apart. I mean, he just
well,
you know, he's,
so on that, I think there's a couple things to it, right? So, like, first of all, draft grades are what they are, right? Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Relevant.
Um, you know, but then
Jamarcus
again,
Russell was the first overall pick.
who?
Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, Jamarcus Russell was. So was Matt Leinart. But then again, then you have, top 5. Anthony Richardson was number 4, right? He broke his face. Not even playing football, broke his face. But so then you have guys like Reggie Bush, who was the number 2 pick, which still don't understand what Houston was doing, but thank you for that. Because the Saints had the 2nd pick, and everyone in the world thought Houston was going to take Reggie Bush, and they didn't. Now, what my point is, though, Reggie Bush was not a Hall of Famer, but he was also not a bust. He was just a solid running back for a while.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple things at play here. I think it's so interesting watching college quarterbacks because I'm going to use a couple SEC examples. You already mentioned one. We talk about the all-time great SEC quarterbacks. You're thinking about Jamarcus Russell. You're thinking about Tim Tebow. You're thinking about Joe Burrow. You're thinking about Danny Werfel. You're thinking about Cam Newton, right? Well, out of that list, you got 2 guys who had pro careers of any note whatsoever, and really only one because Joe Burrow just keeps getting hurt. And here's the thing: Cam Newton had like 2 really good years out of his 9 or 11 years he was in. So it's not like he was lighting it up. My point is this: you also then see quarterbacks like Bryce Young who are solid their whole career. Jalen Hurts rose his whole career, and wind up being great NFL quarterbacks. Dak was good, in both leagues. We just don't know because we don't know. Now the scouts and maybe even some of the writers have more. They're privy to more information, detailed information than we are as fans. But we don't know how much control Mendoza has when he's getting the calls. We don't know how much information on the defense he's having to be fed. That's not something we know. But I agree with you. When I watch him, he looks like he only knows precision. But and my whole point is, I'm not saying he's going to be good or bad in the pros. My point is, like, I don't care what kind of draft grade some dummy is going to try and give this kid. He looks amazing. Like, he looks amazing. So
and that's what I was trying to get at was like this person gives him a 4th round pick, a 4th-round grade, and then I was watching him play, and I was like, I don't see this. Like, I'm seeing, you know, first first 2 rounds for sure, just the way he's playing, and just,
Yeah.
I mean, because to me it looks like it looks like he can make every throw. He's precise, with his throws, and he's decisive when he lets go of the ball. He's
Yeah.
not second guessing on where he's throwing it. So,
Yeah. All right. So we both got Indiana in this one.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna sign off. But before we do, and I haven't talked to Quacker about this, but I'm going to assume he's okay with it because we have a fairly regular schedule when my schedule allows, because my schedule is the one that always ruins it. But we will be back next Tuesday for a review of the game, talk about the game. But if you're cool with it, Quacker, I also want to do something. We did something similar last year, but I'll actually announce it this time. As long as you're okay with it, we're gonna do a review of the game, and then we'll have a couple categories, and we'll do some season superlatives, and wrap up the college football season before we turn our gaze to the beautiful sport of college basketball. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yep.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts?
All right, that's it.
Go Hoosiers.
It's been a fun, yeah. Go Hoosiers. Yeah. It's been a fun season. It's disappointing in some ways, and it's disappointing. It's almost over, but it's another one in the books. So
yeah. But it's gonna be fun. Gonna be real fun. Hey, look, they entered the season as the losingest program of all time. They're now the second losingest program of all time, and quite likely will finish with one of the best teams in the history of the game. How much cooler can it get than that, right? So
storybook.
Seriously, this is like, you want to talk about a movie? This is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Anyway, enjoy the game, guys. By the way, if they do this, so I've tried a new thing this year. I've tried watching multiple broadcasts at a time. So like, I'll go to the YouTube TV and like build my own, and so I'll have like the McAfee broadcast on one. I'll have the StatCast where it's like the normal broadcast, but they have like enhanced stats.
Right.
Then I'll do like the main broadcast. Guys, do yourself a favor and put on multi-view and do that, because you can if you get tired of McAfee, you can flip away. But one thing that's cool about the McAfee cast, if they do it, I don't know if they are, but I think they will. What's cool about it is that they're at field level, and so they're like, they are seeing things. And like the last game I watched, McAfee literally, he was right by the ref. He said, like, this is in the game. He goes, "Hey, you guys are calling a great game," and the ref turns around and like gave him thumbs up. And I was just like, how cool is it? Like, it's cool to see that and to hear like, that kind of stuff. So if they do the McAfee cast with him and his crew on the sideline, they're kind of like, if you haven't seen it before, they're kind of like all spread out around the sideline, but they have communication where they can talk to one another. And then McAfee kind of acts as like the commentator, and then the other guys are color. Well, McAfee's colored too, but he it's cool. It's unique. It is the opposite of the Booger McFarlane Crane. Wasn't that his name? Booger McFarlane? Booger
Yeah.
The opposite of the Booger McFarlane.
I did see AJ Hawk like standing at the goalpost last week. I think it was in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, that's where it was. They were standing right there when McAfee said, "Hey, you guys are calling a great game."
Yeah, he's like Hawk is so, so just easy to pick out of the crowd, because he's just still looks like he played linebacker right now. But I was like, oh, they're doing because I could see the headset on them. I was like, oh, they're doing the broadcast thing. But yeah, I do like those multi-views sometimes. I like that StatCast where you can see the stuff on the sides and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and
Well,
see like
oftentimes, yeah, I like it, but what I like is I'll generally stay because whatever's highlighted, is your main audio. So I'll generally stay on the primary broadcast for the audio, unless I see or feel like McAfee and his crew are talking about something interesting. Then I'll flip down. But I'm the same way. I like to see their view, and I like to see the enhanced stats. I don't know how it used to be called the ESPN 360, but now it's called Skyview. I don't know how that has lasted 20 years. I don't know anybody who ever watches a Skyview.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah.
So it used to be called 360 because basically the whole idea was that like it was when they first introduced like the cable cameras, and they would have but what if you I don't know if you remember this, when they first introduced it, they didn't have the broadcasters on there, so you're just watching the game and commercials with no announcers. So it was like playing
It's
the
still
old
like that.
Oh, is it? So
Yeah. You'll hear the in stadium audio.
So it's
you'll
okay.
hear like
So it's like it's NCAA 1997 where there were no commentators, and it was just like touchdown Georgia, like
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So don't watch the Skyview, but the other alternate broadcasts are worth it. So, all right. Anyway, been way longer than I needed it to be, and it was all my fault. So I have no one to blame but myself. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Quacker, where can people find the show?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube at Old House Podcast, and you can find us on X at Old House Pod.
All right. And as always, thank you guys for joining us. We love you guys. We are excited about this final game, and we'll see you next Tuesday.